The planet Zytheria lay under a pale, trembling sun, its surface scarred by centuries of war and neglect. Once a jewel of the galaxy, it now looked like a dying ember, its cities half buried in ash and dust. Marcus Vale stepped off the sleek transport ship, his boots crunching on the cracked ground. He had traveled across star systems for a mission few humans fully understood. Peacekeeping in distant worlds was never easy, and Zytheria promised a challenge unlike any other. Marcus adjusted his armor, the hum of his energy shield vibrating softly under his fingertips. His eyes scanned the horizon. Ruin stretched for miles, and the few alien inhabitants he glimpsed moved quickly, wary of strangers. The Zytherians were tall, delicate-looking creatures, their limbs long and elegant, with skin that shimmered faintly under the sun's dying rays. Their eyes were deep pools of color, reflecting both intelligence and sorrow. He had heard stories of Princess Illyra. She was said to be the last of her royal line, her people dwindling under a mysterious illness that no one could cure. Entire generations had vanished, leaving their once thriving world on the brink of collapse. Illyra herself had grown weak, her body fading day by day, her presence barely more than a shadow of her former strength. Marcus had seen many crises, but this felt different. There was an urgency here that pressed on his chest as he walked toward the city, where the princess awaited. The palace was unlike anything Marcus had expected. It was not tall or imposing, but rather elegant, built from a crystalline material that seemed alive, pulsing faintly as if it had a heartbeat of its own. Its halls were quiet, almost eerily so, and the air smelled faintly of ozone and flowers. It's a mixture both foreign and strangely comforting. Servants moved silently along the corridors, and each glance Marcus received carried the weight of centuries of fear and loss. He was led to a chamber where Illyra rested. The princess lay on a low platform, her form fragile and pale. She looked human in some ways, but her elongated fingers and luminous skin reminded him she was far from it. Her eyes were closed, and her chest rose and fell with a weakness that tugged at Marcus's heart. He had been briefed on her condition, but seeing it firsthand was something else entirely. This was a life teetering on the edge, and he wondered if he had the power to make a difference. When Illyra opened her eyes, they were like twin stars dimmed by fog. She gazed at Marcus cautiously, suspicion and hope mingling in her expression. She did not speak, but Marcus felt her mind reaching out, tentative yet powerful, as if trying to measure the strength of the human standing before her. "Princess Illyra," he said gently, bowing his head slightly in respect. "I am Marcus Vale. I am here to help you, if you will allow me." Her lips parted, and a weak voice finally emerged. "Why? Why would a human care for someone like me?" Marcus paused, considering his words. "Some things are worth saving, even if we are strangers. Even if the world around us is falling apart, life is worth protecting." Lyra studied him, her gaze searching for deception. There was none, only determination. Finally she whispered, "They told me no one could help me, that I would fade away." "Then let me be the first to try," Marcus said firmly. "I do not know the outcome, but I will not leave you to fade alone." Silence fell over the room. The only sound was the faint hum of the crystalline palace walls. Marcus watched the rise and fall of Illyra's chest, measuring the time left. Then he made a decision that few humans would dare. "I have a gift in my blood," he said quietly. "It is unique. It can resist decay, heal wounds, and adapt to many biological systems. If you allow me, I can share it with you. It may save you." Illyra's eyes widened. "You would risk your life for me. I risk nothing I am not." "Willing to risk?" Marcus replied. "You may live, or you may not, but I cannot stand by and do nothing." For a long moment she said nothing. Her body trembled, and Marcus thought she might refuse. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded. "Do it!" Marcus drew a small device from his armor, designed to transfer blood safely between species. The technology was advanced, but even with it, the act carried risks. The human immune system and the Syrian biology were vastly different, and there was no guarantee she would survive. Marcus took a deep breath. feeling the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. He began the procedure carefully, monitoring every pulse and heartbeat. As his blood entered Elira's system, he watched for any reaction. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a faint glow spread beneath her skin, like sunlight breaking through clouds. The room filled with a soft golden light, and Marcus felt a strange warmth, as if the palace itself was acknowledging the act. Illyra gasped, her body shivering with a sudden rush of energy. Marcus steadied her, speaking softly to keep her calm. "It is working," he said. "Your body is accepting it. Just relax." She opened her eyes fully this time, and he saw something new there, a spark of vitality, faint but undeniable. She tried to move, and for the first time in weeks, she managed to sit upright without assistance. Her strength was fragile, but real, a sign that the human blood was having an effect. Outside the chamber, the palace staff whispered in amazement. Some crossed themselves, while others fell silent in awe. The impossible was happening. A human had touched life on a planet thought doomed, and it responded. Marcus watched Illyra carefully. He knew the procedure was only the first step. Her body would continue to adapt over the coming hours and days. There might be unforeseen consequences, but for now she lived, and that was enough. Illyra's voice trembled, but it carried more strength than before. I feel different, stronger somehow. That is the human resilience within you, Marcus said. It is not the same as your own species' strength, but it is a gift. You will need to learn how to use it, but you have the potential to surpass anything your people have known. She looked at him, her eyes wide with both fear and hope. Surpass my people, yes, Marcus replied. Your species has suffered, but now you have something new, something powerful. You may be the one to change your world's fate. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other. The weight of the moment was heavy, but it was also filled with promise. Knew that what had begun here would not end in a single night. It would take time, training, and courage. But it was a spark of life that could ignite a future no one had thought possible as the sun dipped lower. Casting long shadows across the palace, Marcus remained at Illyra's side. He did not know what the next hours would bring, or what challenges lay ahead, but he knew one thing. In a galaxy full of despair, humanity had a role to play. And sometimes it began with a single act of courage, a single gift of life. It's a single human willing to step forward when no one else would. The glow beneath Illyra's skin continued to pulse softly, steady, and alive. Marcus smiled faintly. The journey had only just begun, but for the first time in many years, hope had returned to HYTHERIA. And in that fragile hope, both human and Zetherian hearts beat together, unaware of the unbelievable path that lay ahead. The glow from Illyra's veins had not faded with the night. Marcus watched her carefully as she moved slowly across the chamber, her body still fragile but undeniably alive. Her skin, once pale and wan, now shimmered faintly in the dim light, and her eyes held a spark that had not been there before. Marcus felt a mixture of relief and awe. The human blood he had given her was doing more than sustaining life. It was awakening something new. Illyra sat at the edge of her platform, her long fingers tracing the air as if she could feel it differently. It is strange, she whispered. I feel energy I have never known, as if my own body has become larger. Marcus stepped closer. That is the blood adapting to you. It is not just sustaining you, it is merging with your biology. It is giving you a resilience your species has never experienced before. She looked at him, her expression a mix of wonder and fear. Am I changing? You are, Marcus said gently. But that is not necessarily a bad thing. We're stronger than before, more capable. You will need to learn how to control it, but it can save your people. Illyra tried to stand fully and wobbled, her legs trembling. Marcus rushed to support her. Take your time, he said. Strength is new. You cannot master it instantly. Over the next hours, Marcus guided Illyra through simple movements, observing how her body responded. Each step she took was steadier than the last. Each gesture seemed infused with a quiet power, a resilience beyond her own species. Marcus could see the faint hum of energy flowing beneath her skin, like a network of light carrying vitality to every part of her body. As Alira practiced, she began to notice more subtle changes. Her senses were sharper. She could hear the distant hum of the city outside, smell the faintest scents of plants in the palace gardens, and feel the vibration of the crystalline walls beneath her feet. It was as if Marcus's blood had unlocked. Parts of her biology that had remained dormant for centuries, Marcus watched with a mixture of curiosity and concern. He had known human blood carried unique properties, but he had never expected it to integrate so quickly and so deeply into an alien body. He wondered if Illyra would survive the transformation, or if it might overwhelm her system entirely. Yet, she seemed determined, her spirit unyielding, despite her physical weakness. As the day wore on, Lyra's movements grew more confident. She began to experiment, lifting objects with ease that would have been impossible for a Zithirian in her weakened state. A small crystal vase floated briefly in her hands before she caught it, and both she and Marcus gasped at the sight. "I did not do that before," she whispered. How? How is this possible?" Marcus shook his head in amazement. "Your body is learning. Your mind is learning. The blood I gave you is enhancing your natural abilities, amplifying what your species could never do alone." Illyra's eyes widened. "If I can do this, then perhaps I can help my people." "That is the goal," Marcus said. "We have to be careful, but this power can be the beginning of a new future for Zytheria." Later, as night fell and the twin moons rose over the palace, Illyra sat alone on the balcony, staring at the stars. Marcus joined her silently, respecting her need for reflection. The city below was quiet, the faint hum of activity from the remaining inhabitants barely audible. "I feel different," she said softly. "Stronger, yes, but also like I belong to two worlds at once. Human and Zetharian." "That is what you are now," Marcus said. "You are both, and that is your strength. You have the wisdom of your people, and the resilience of humanity. You can be more than either alone." Alira closed her eyes, absorbing the truth of his words. For the first time in years, she felt hope not just for herself, but for the future of her people. The next morning, Marcus and Illyra began training in earnest. They moved through the palace gardens, testing her strength, agility, and newfound abilities. At first, the exercises were simple: walking longer distances, lifting heavier objects, controlling her balance. Each success brought a spark of joy to Illyra's eyes. Marcus felt a surge of pride. But as the hours passed, her abilities began to reveal their full potential. She could sense movements before they happened, anticipate shifts in the ground, and even influence small amounts of energy around her. A gentle gesture of her hand could redirect a stream of water or lift leaves from the garden floor. Each discovery left her both exhilarated and frightened. "I did not ask for this," she admitted one afternoon, her voice trembling. "I only wanted to survive. But now I feel powerful." "That is not a mistake," Marcus said firmly. "You were given this power for a reason. You can save your people, and perhaps more than that, you can change how the galaxy sees your species." Her gaze hardened, determination replacing fear. "Then I will not waste it. If this is the gift you have given me, I will use it wisely." The days passed. Illyra grew more confident. Her control over her abilities increased, and she began to understand the limits and potential of her new form. She could endure harsh conditions, recover from injuries faster, and manipulate energy in ways Zetharians had only imagined in myths. Yet with every new ability, Marcus reminded her to remain cautious. "Power is not a weapon by itself," he told her one evening. "It is a tool. How you use it will define the future." Illyra nodded, absorbing the lesson. She spent long hours in meditation and training, learning to focus her mind and body. Marcus observed patiently, guiding her when necessary, but also allowing her to discover the limits on her own. He knew that true mastery came from experience, not instruction. One afternoon, a messenger arrived at the palace, breathless and wide-eyed. The Vorlix, an enemy species that had long sought to conquer Zytheria, had launched a small raid on the outer settlements. It underestimated the city's defenses. But the threat was real. Elira's heart pounded. "They are coming here?" she asked. "They may try," Marcus replied calmly. "But now you are ready in ways no Zetherian has ever been." Illyra looked down at her hands, the faint glow of energy still pulsing beneath her skin. She felt a surge of confidence, tempered by the knowledge that this was only the beginning. She could not let fear control her. Her people were depending on her, and Marcus had shown her that humanity's resilience could make a difference in even the darkest situations. Over the next few days, Illyra and Marcus prepared the palace for any threat. She trained the remaining guards, demonstrating her abilities carefully, ensuring they would respect her power without fearing it. Marcus guided them in tactics and strategy, combining human ingenuity with Zetherian skills. Together, they began to forge a plan not only to defend the city, but to inspire hope in a world that had nearly lost it. As the first signs of the Vorlix fleet appeared on the horizon, Illyra stood on the palace balcony, her glowing eyes scanning the skies. She no longer felt weak or fragile. The human blood had changed her, yes, but it had also awakened a determination she had never known. Marcus joined her silently, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Are you ready?" Red turned to him, a determined smile on her face. "I am ready, not just to survive, but to fight, to protect my people, and to prove that we are not powerless." The sun rose behind them, casting long golden rays across the city. Illyra felt the energy of life, both human and Zetherian, flowing through her. For the first time, she believed in the impossible that a single human could spark a change in an entire civilization. And as the distant shadows of the Vorlix fleet approached, she knew that what lay ahead would test her in ways she could not yet imagine. But she also knew that she was no longer the fading princess she had been. She was something new, something stronger, something that might just save her world. Marcus watched her, pride swelling in his chest. Humanity had faced countless challenges across the stars, but he realized now that the true strength of humans was not just survival, it was the ability to inspire, to adapt, and to awaken potential wherever it was needed. Illyra took a deep breath, feeling the energy within her pulse like a living heartbeat. She was ready to face whatever came next. And in that readiness, a spark of hope burned brighter than any fear. The city of Zetheria had never seen a dawn as tense as this. The twin suns had barely risen when scouts reported movement on the horizon, dark shapes slicing through the haze of the distant plains. The Vorlix fleet, known for their relentless attacks, was advancing faster than expected. The remaining citizens of the capital hurried to prepare defenses, their eyes reflecting fear, hope, and desperation all at once. Illyra stood on the balcony of the palace, her hands glowing faintly. As she focused on the horizon, her body, strengthened by Marcus's blood, pulsed with energy she could barely contain. Marcus was at her side, his calm presence grounding her. "They are closer than we thought," he said. "But you are ready. Trust yourself." She nodded. "I have to protect them," she whispered. "I cannot fail now." The first skirmish occurred at the outskirts of the city. Vorlix drones, sharp and metallic, descended from their hovering ships, firing energy pulses that lit the sky in brilliant streaks. The city guards met them with what weapons remained, but it quickly became clear that conventional tactics would not be enough. Marcus had anticipated this and had trained Illyra for moments like this. But now the true test was underway. Illyra raised her hands instinctively, focusing on the energy flowing through her veins. A pulse radiated outward, knocking drones off balance, causing some to crash to the ground harmlessly. Guards and citizens watched in awe as she moved with precision and power, her body almost dancing as energy streamed from her hands. Every motion was controlled, deliberate, filled with an almost supernatural grace. Marcus shouted over the din, "Focus on them one at a time. Do not get overwhelmed." He moved among the guards, giving orders and guiding them strategically, blending human battlefield tactics with Zithrian defenses. Illyra, you can disrupt their formations. Lead them toward the traps we set. Illyra inhaled deeply and stepped forward. Energy rippled from her palms like liquid light, bending toward the drones. She felt a strange exhilaration as the power obeyed her will, a sensation she had never experienced before. The drones were thrown off course, colliding with one another, or with the energy barriers Marcus had erected. It was a breathtaking display, both terrifying and magnificent. Despite the initial success, the Vorliks were relentless. Their main fleet appeared above the city, massive ships casting shadows over the streets. Illyra felt the fear rising among the people below, the panic that had plagued Cytheria for decades. Marcus placed a steady hand on her shoulder. No, not. Let them see your fear. If you remain calm, they will falter. She nodded again, closing her eyes for a moment to center herself. When she opened them, they glowed brighter than before, radiating determination and focus. Her body moved with confidence, sending waves of energy that disrupted the enemy ship's shields. Explosions rocked the outskirts of the city, but Illyra's precise strikes kept casualties to a minimum. From her vantage point, she could see the Vorliks adapting, changing tactics to counter her abilities. They had underestimated a single human alien. Hybrid. Marcus noted their shifts and shouted instructions to the remaining guards. Use the narrow streets. Funnel them toward the traps. Protect the civilians. His words were clear and decisive, stark contrast to the chaos around them. Illyra followed his guidance, moving with speed and agility she had never known. She lifted debris to block paths, redirected energy attacks away from the citizens, and even lifted a small group of people from harm's way with a gentle push of energy. Each action required intense focus, but she found a rhythm, a harmony between her Zitharian instincts and the human resilience flowing through her. Hours passed, and the battle intensified. The Vorlik ships fired relentlessly in their ground. Forces pressed harder. Marcus fought alongside the guards, directing strategies and eliminating threats with precise strikes. Every so often, he would glance at Illyra, ensuring she remained safe. But he could see she was not merely surviving. She was leading, inspiring, and changing the tide of the fight. At one point, a Vorlik's commander, a towering figure clad in dark armor, broke through the front lines and advanced toward the palace. The guards faltered under the sheer force of the attack. Illyra's eyes widened. This was the test she had feared, the moment where everything she had learned would be truly measured. Marcus shouted, "Stay calm. You can handle this." Illyra focused her energy, drawing it deep from her core. The glow from her body intensified, and the air around her seemed to vibrate with power. She stepped forward, and the commander froze mid-stride, his massive weapon wavering under her influence. With a wave of her hand, she sent a controlled blast of energy, knocking him to the ground without causing permanent harm. The guards seized. The moment to regroup and push back, a cheer went up from the city defenders, though tempered by exhaustion and fear. Illyra's strength was not just in her powers, but in the confidence she inspired. Citizens who had hidden in fear now joined the defense where they could, carrying supplies, helping the wounded, and supporting the guards. Marcus watched the transformation, realizing that Illyra's human-enhanced resilience had not only saved lives but rekindled hope. The battle raged on for hours. Illyra continued to refine her abilities in real time, sensing weaknesses in the Vorlik's forces and exploiting them. She could feel the energy around her, the flow of power through the battlefield, and she used it to protect civilians while dismantling enemy formations. Marcus coordinated efforts with precision, but it was Illyra who had become the heart of the defense. By midday, the Vorliks were retreating. Their forces had underestimated the strength and ingenuity of a hybrid they could not predict. Powers, combined with Marcus' strategy and the courage of the people, had turned the tide. The city was battered but standing, and for the first time in decades, the citizens of Cytheria dared to hope. Illyra collapsed to her knees, exhausted but alive. Marcus rushed to her side, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You did it," he said. "Softly, you saved him." I could not have done it without you," she whispered, her body still glowing faintly from the exertion. The power, it is incredible, but I could not control it without your guidance. Marcus smiled. You have always had the strength. The blood I gave you unlocked it, but the courage, the determination, and the will that is yours. Humans are strong, yes, but you were already a leader. I only helped you see it. The city slowly recovered from the immediate threat. Illyra walked among her people, her presence inspiring confidence and gratitude. Citizens began clearing debris, tending to the wounded, and restoring what had been destroyed. Where there had been fear and despair, there was now hope and determination. As evening fell, Illyra returned to the palace with Marcus. They sat together in silence, watching the horizon where the Vorlig's fleet had disappeared. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Illyra knew that stronger forces would come, but she also knew she had changed. She was no longer the fading princess she had been. She was a warrior, a protector, and a symbol of resilience that combined the best of her people and humanity. Marcus placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but today, you proved something incredible. You proved that a single human, a single act of courage, can awaken potential no one else could. Lyra nodded, feeling a mixture of fatigue and exhilaration. Her powers still flowed through her, stronger and more controlled than before. She had survived her first test in battle, and she had led her people to victory. For the first time, she truly believed in herself, in the strength that humanity had brought to her life, and in the hope that together they could face whatever the galaxy would throw at them next as the twin moons rose. Casting silver light over the city, Illyra and Marcus looked out over the streets. The glow in her veins reflected the city's renewed vitality. The battle had changed everything, not only for the people of Zytheria, but for the galaxy itself. And in that quiet moment, with the stars sparkling overhead, Illyra felt a deep certainty. She would not only survive, she would thrive. She would fight for her people, for the humans who had aided her, and for a future where courage, resilience, and unity could triumph over despair. The city of Zytheria had survived its first major attack, but the scars remained. Buildings were crumbled, streets littered with debris, and the air smelled faintly of burnt metal and smoke. Lyra walked through the city, her glowing hands a quiet reminder of the power that had saved so many lives. Citizens stared at her with awe, their fear replaced by a mixture of admiration and curiosity. Marcus walked beside her, alert to every movement, ready to guide her if needed. "We need to rebuild," Marcus said quietly. "We need to prepare. The Vorlics will not give up easily. If anything, this is just the beginning." Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing on her shoulders. She had discovered the incredible strength she could wield, but with that power came decisions she had never faced before. Each choice could affect thousands of lives. She paused near a collapsed building and placed her hands on the rubble. Energy flowed from her palms, lifting stones and debris slowly, carefully, so as not to injure anyone trapped underneath. "This is strange," she whispered. "I can feel the energy of the city, its sadness, its hope, even the fear. I can sense everything around me," Marcus observed silently. "That is the next stage of your transformation. Human blood has given you more than physical strength. You can sense and influence energy in ways no Zytherian has ever done. But you must learn control. Without it, you could harm as easily as you could help." She took a deep breath and focused. The rubble lifted more steadily, and she realized that she could feel the life force of each person nearby. Her senses extended further than she had thought possible. For the first time, she understood that her gift was not just for defense. It was a tool to heal, protect, and even inspire. Over the next days, Illyra devoted herself to mastering this new ability. She trained relentlessly, guided by Marcus. Careful instruction. She discovered she could manipulate small energy currents, move objects without touching them, and even stabilize weak life forms. Injured citizens she touched with her energy recovered faster than they had any right to, their wounds knitting together almost instantly. Word of her powers spread throughout the city. People who had hidden in fear came forward, offering to help with the rebuilding, learning from her example. Even those who had doubted her abilities began to place their trust in her guidance. Illyra began to understand that her role was larger than defending the city. It was about restoring hope, showing that strength and courage could transform despair into action. One afternoon, as Illyra practiced in the palace gardens, Marcus approached with a serious expression. "We have new intelligence," he said. "The Vorliks are gathering a larger force. They intend to strike at multiple settlements at once. We need to prepare not just Etheria, but the entire region." Ira's eyes narrowed. "Then we cannot wait. I need to understand the full extent of what I can do. I can help my people. I must be stronger than any threat they will face." Marcus nodded. "That is true, but strength alone is not enough. Strategy, caution, and wisdom are just as important. You must balance all of these if you are to survive and protect others." Over the following days, Illyra and Marcus worked tirelessly. Illyra trained, practiced, and explored the limits of her abilities. She discovered that she could channel energy to strengthen others, boosting the stamina of the city's defenders. She could sense danger before it arrived, anticipating attacks and movements with uncanny precision. Her agility, speed, and control over her environment improved steadily. Every day, she grew more confident and capable. Meanwhile, Marcus coordinated with the remaining military leaders, combining Zetharian technology with human tactical expertise. They built new defenses, reinforced key structures, and devised strategies to protect civilians and counter the Vorliks' forces. Illyra's powers allowed them to attempt tactics that would have been impossible for ordinary soldiers, and she became the linchpin of their defense. Despite the progress, Illyra knew that the coming battles would be far more difficult. The Vorliks would not be stopped by simple defenses. They would adapt, attack with cunning, and exploit any weakness. She spent long nights meditating, learning to focus her energy, and mastering her powers to the finest detail. She visualized battles in her mind, imagining every possible scenario and testing her response. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon, Marcus approached her quietly. "You have grown stronger than I imagined," he said. "Remember, power alone cannot win this war. You must also inspire your people to believe in themselves. Fear can undo even the strongest abilities." Illyra nodded, understanding the truth in his words. "I will not let them see weakness. I will show them what hope looks like, and I will lead them forward." As the first reports of Vorliks' movements reached them, Illyra felt a surge of determination. She could sense their forces gathering in the distance, the faint vibration of their ships, and the tension in their minds. The enemy was clever and patient, but she now had the advantage of foresight and energy manipulation. She could guide her people, anticipate threats, and respond with precision. The day of the next attack arrived, and Zetheria was ready. Illyra stood at the forefront of the city, her body glowing with controlled energy, her senses alert to every movement. The citizens watched her with hope and awe, inspired by her courage and power. Marcus moved among the defenders, coordinating strategies and ensuring that every move was calculated for maximum effect. The Vorliks arrived in waves, larger and more coordinated than before. Energy pulses lit the sky, and the city shook under the assault. But Illyra was ready. She moved with precision, guiding energy flows to disrupt enemy formations and protect civilians. Her power was stronger and more controlled than ever. She demonstrated her ability to heal and boost allies mid-battle, turning the tide in ways previously unimaginable. The battle lasted hours, and Illyra's mastery grew with every passing moment. She could anticipate attacks before they happened, lift debris to protect civilians, and neutralize threats without unnecessary destruction. Her presence inspired courage in others, and the city's defenders fought with renewed determination. By the end of the day, the Vorliks were forced to retreat once again. This time, however, their losses were far greater, and their morale was shaken. Illyra had not only defended the city, but had demonstrated a new level of power and strategy that would change the way her people approached future conflicts. Exhausted but resolute, Illyra returned to the palace with Marcus. The city around them was damaged, but hope had been restored. Citizens cheered her arrival, grateful for her courage and inspired by her abilities. Lyra understood that her transformation was no longer just about survival. It was about leadership, guidance, and the potential to change the fate of an entire civilization. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. "You have done more than save your people," he said. "You have shown them that hope is real and that strength can come from unity, courage, and resilience." Lyra looked out over the city, her hands glowing faintly as she absorbed the energy of her surroundings. "I will continue to grow," she said softly. "I will learn everything I can so that when the next threat comes, we will be ready. And maybe, just maybe, I can help more than just Cytheria." Marcus nodded, understanding her vision. Humanity had given her more than life. They had given her resilience, strategy, and determination. Lyra was becoming something greater than either species alone, a symbol of hope, unity, and strength. The twin moons rose over the city, casting silver light across the streets. Lyra's glow reflected that light, a beacon of power and possibility. The battle had tested her, but she had emerged stronger, more capable, and ready for the challenges ahead. She knew the Vorlix would return, but now she was not afraid. She was ready to fight, to lead, to inspire her people in ways they had never imagined. And in the quiet moments after the battle, as the city began to rebuild and heal, Lyra realized something profound. The human gift Marcus had given her was more than blood. It was a spark of hope, courage, and resilience that would guide her and her people toward a future that was no longer defined by fear, but by possibility. The city of Cytheria was alive with movement. Rebuilding had begun, and hope had returned to the hearts of its people. Lyra walked through the streets, her glow gentle but steady, a reminder of the power that had saved them all. The citizens greeted her with smiles and nods of respect, some reaching out to touch her hands, feeling the warmth and energy that radiated from her. Marcus followed closely, his eyes scanning the horizon, always alert to potential threats. "Today feels different," Lyra said softly, sensing the city's energy. "It is not just about survival anymore, it feels alive." Marcus nodded. "You have changed more than yourself. You have changed them. They believe again because you have shown them courage and strength. That is something no army, no weapon could achieve alone." The calm did not last long. Scouts reported new signs of Vorlix activity, larger forces gathering beyond the borders of Cytheria. This time, the attack would not be small. The Vorlix were determined to conquer, and they had learned from their previous defeats. Lyra's powers and Marcus' strategies would be tested as never before. Lyra stood on the palace balcony, feeling the energy flow through her body. She could sense the tension in the approaching enemy, their determination, and the fear among their ranks. The Vorlix were formidable, but Lyra now understood her own capabilities in ways she had never imagined. Her body was strong, her mind sharp, and her resolve unyielding. "We cannot face them unprepared," Marcus said, joining her. "But we have something they do not: unity, courage, and your power. You have inspired your people to fight with hope, not just fear. That is our advantage." Lyra nodded. "Then we will face them together. I will not let Cytheria fall." The battle began at dawn. The Vorlix fleet moved like a shadow across the plains, their ships and troops advancing with precision and aggression. Energy pulses lit the sky, and the ground trembled under the weight of their forces. Lyra raised her hands glowing brightly and directed her energy to shield the city. Citizens and defenders followed her lead, their movements coordinated. And confident under her guidance, Marcus directed the soldiers, blending human tactics with Cytherian agility. They created choke points, ambushes, and defensive barriers, maximizing the advantages that Lyra's powers provided. The enemy, though strong and numerous, found themselves disrupted at every turn. Energy blasts knocked ships off course, debris shifted to block attacks. Anirez's presence inspired the defenders to fight with unmatched determination. As the battle raged, Lyra discovered new depths of her abilities. She could manipulate energy on a larger scale, creating shields that protected entire streets and redirecting attacks with precision. She could sense the movements of the enemy before they acted, giving the defenders an edge that no ordinary strategy could match. Every strike she made was deliberate, controlled, and effective. Marcus watched with pride. "You have become more than a princess," he said. "You are a warrior, a leader, and a symbol of hope. Your people are alive because of you." Illyra's focus was unbroken. She moved across the battlefield, lifting fallen debris to shield. The weak, redirecting energy, blasts away from civilians, and guiding soldiers to where they were needed most. Her glowing hands left trails of energy that acted like invisible hands, moving obstacles and protecting lives. She was not just fighting for survival, she was orchestrating a defense that seemed almost impossible. The Vorlik's commander, who had once confronted her before, returned, larger and more imposing than ever. His armor shimmered with energy, and his movements were precise and deadly. He advanced toward the palace, seeking to strike directly at Illyra and break the heart of the city's defense. Illyra faced him with calm determination. She could feel his aggression, his strategy, and his intent. The energy in her body pulsed in response, stronger than ever before. With a deep breath, she focused her mind and sent a controlled wave of energy forward, stopping him in his tracks. The commander staggered, unprepared for the force that flowed from her. Illyra's eyes glowed brightly as she projected a shield around herself and the palace. Deflecting his attacks and immobilizing his forces, Marcus coordinated with the defenders, launching a counterattack that exploited the commander's temporary weakness. The combined effort of human strategy, Zetharian skill, and Illyra's unique powers overwhelmed the enemy. The Vorlik's forces began to retreat, their morale shattered, their precision undone by the unity and courage of those they had underestimated. Hours passed, and by evening, the battlefield was quiet. Cytheria had survived again, and the Vorliks had been forced to retreat, their ambitions thwarted. Illyra walked through the city, her glow now soft, allowing her to connect with the people around her. She healed those who had been injured, strengthened those who were exhausted, and offered reassurance to all who needed it. The citizens looked at her with awe and gratitude. Children ran to her side, their laughter ringing out after weeks of fear. Adults bowed or reached out to touch her hands, feeling the warmth and energy that radiated hope. Illyra realized that her role was no longer simply about defending her people, it was about inspiring them to rebuild, to grow stronger, and to believe in the possibilities of a brighter future. Marcus stood nearby, observing quietly. "Ah, you have done something incredible," he said. "Your people will remember this day for generations. You have changed not just Zytheria, but the way they see themselves and humanity as well." Illyra smiled softly. "It is not just me. It is all of us. The human blood you gave me unlocked strength, yes, but it is the courage of everyone here that makes this city alive again. Together, we are stronger than any threat." As the twin moons rose over the rebuilt city, Illyra and Marcus stood on the palace balcony, overlooking the streets below. The city was scarred, yes, but it was alive. The people moved with purpose, repairing what had been destroyed, tending to the wounded, and preparing for a future that no longer seemed so uncertain. Illyra felt the energy flowing through her body, steady and controlled. She had grown stronger, learned control, and discovered the true potential of her transformation. She could influence energy, heal, protect, and inspire. But more importantly, she had learned the value of leadership, courage, and unity. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. "The galaxy is vast, Illyra. Many worlds face threats like the ones you have fought. You now have the power, the experience, and the vision to make a difference far beyond Zytheria. Humanity and Zytheria together can spark hope across the stars." Illyra looked out at the horizon, feeling a surge of purpose. "Then we will not stop here. We'll help others, guide those in need, and protect the innocent wherever we can. The universe is full of challenges, but we are not powerless. We're strong. And together, we can face anything." Marcus nodded. "Exactly. And you are the proof that one person, one act of courage, can change the course of countless lives." The city settled into quiet that night, the first true peace in many years. Citizens slept with hope in their hearts, knowing their princess had fought for them, and that her strength, courage, and wisdom would guide them forward. Illyra remained on the balcony, her eyes glowing softly as she watched the stars. She felt the human resilience flowing through her, intertwined with her Zetharian nature. A combination that had created something truly extraordinary. In the days that followed, Illyra continued to train, to guide, and to lead. She helped rebuild Zetheria, taught her people to use their skills and strengths, and prepared them for any future threats. Her powers continued to grow, but she wielded them with responsibility and care, understanding that true strength came not from domination, from protection and unity. Word spread to neighboring planets about the human warrior and the transformed princess of Zetheria. Other civilizations began to look at humans, not just as outsiders, but as catalysts for hope, resilience, and progress. Illyra and Marcus became symbols of cooperation between species, proof that courage and unity could overcome fear and despair. Years later, Zetheria thrived again, stronger and more prosperous than ever before. Illyra stood at the palace balcony, older, wiser, and still glowing with the energy that had saved her people. Marcus stood beside her, proud of all they had accomplished together. The Vorliks had been driven away, their threat diminished, and the city's future was secure. Illyra looked out at her people, her heart filled with pride and hope. "We have survived," she said softly. "We have grown stronger, and we have shown that even the smallest spark can ignite a flame that changes the world." Marcus smiled, and humanity was that spark. Lyra turned to him, gratitude and respect shining in her eyes. "Thank you, Marcus. You believed in me and my people, and in the future. Without you, none of this would have been possible." Marcus shook his head. "You had the strength all along, only helped you see it. Humanity can offer guidance, courage, and resilience, but it is your heart and determination that made this victory real."
Oh.
Together, they looked out over Zetheria, the city alive, vibrant, and safe. Illyra's transformation had not only saved her life, but had changed the course of history for her people. The human warrior's blood had sparked something extraordinary. The outcome had been truly unbelievable. For the first time in centuries, Zetheria was free from despair. And Illyra, the princess who had once been fading, now shone as a beacon of hope, strength, and unity, ready to